Hi, I'm Mike Doran. I'm a senior fellow here at the Hudson Institute, where I also run our Middle East Center. And it's my great honor and pleasure today to host Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, formerly a nationally syndicated radio host of America First with Sebastian Gorka, internationally recognized expert on counterterrorism, best-selling author of Defeating Jihad and Why We Fight.
Why we fight.
You know what?
I'm doing
the intro here.
Without notes. I'm very impressed. Mike. Very impressed.
And now, Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director.
You just demoted me. You just demoted me, Mike.
You're not Special Assistant to the President?
No.
Deputy Assistant to the President?
I'm a DAP.
Deputy Assistant to the President. I apologize. It's because you threw me off my script.
Clearly.
Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism in the National Security Council. Welcome. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
It's an honor to be here. We're friends from way back when, and I have high regard for your work. And it's really exciting to be here to talk about what we've done in the scant 7 months we've been in office, trying to keep up with the president.
You know why I screwed up the SAP-DAP thing?
Why?
Because when I worked in the White House, I was neither. So you actually outright me. So SAP and DAP, it was always just
in the clouds, way above.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't because I didn't have access to the White House cafeteria.
You mean the Navy mess?
The Navy mess. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I thought you were an insider. I thought you were a insider.
I just showed that I really don't know, and I shouldn't. I broke the first rule in Washington, which is you should never demote yourself. So, but I felt I had to because I screwed up your title. Anyway,
shall we get to work?
Let's get to work. Welcome.
Okay.
Yeah. So listen. First of all, congratulations on the many accomplishments of the administration. And number one for me personally was the taking out of the Iranian nuclear program. And we're going to talk about counterterrorism. Why don't we talk about Iran first and foremost? And let me just maybe you have some opening comments about Iran. I have lots of questions.
I do, and it really is what I try and share. And thank you for Hudson and for Mike for organizing this at such short notice, and for all the work you've done over the years. So, as you are well aware, having worked in the NSC and at the Pentagon, our job is to translate the Commander-in-Chief's vision across all aspects of statecraft, foreign policy, security policy, defense policy, and intelligence policy. And as such, you're constantly in meetings with the interagency, in SCIFs, in secure facilities, going to various agencies and departments. And whenever it comes to the region of the world you're so interested in, and that benighted region that is really the source of global jihadism writ large, I've been telling my colleagues since January the 20th, you need to understand one thing. When the president looks at the region, he doesn't slice it down into cylinders of excellence. He doesn't care if you're the Syria desk officer or the natural resources expert. He has one overlay for the whole AOR, and that one metric, that one prism is Iran. And he's absolutely right. If we just did a thought experiment in terms of how many proxies are supported by that bloodthirsty regime, if they weren't supported to the tune of billions of dollars by Iran, the world would be a much, much safer place. There is a reason that in the president's letter to the supreme leader, there were only two issues. It wasn't bloviating, JCPOA, fake diplomacy. It was two things. We will not permit you to acquire nuclear weapons, and you must desist now all support of proxies. That's why Iran is front and center in everything we do in the region, because they remain the greatest state sponsor of terrorism. And the world would be a much safer place if that were not the case.
So the president views the whole region through the prism of
Iran.
Of Iran.
Yeah.
When he's talking about Gaza, when he's talking about Syria.
Absolutely.
All of it. I don't think that's obvious from his public statements. It's interesting to know.
Well, it should be, because I challenge anyone to do the math of the president's press conference, and especially the impromptu press array. So I couldn't do this if I were the president. He will invite the hounds, the gutter press, into the Oval. I was there for the swearing in of my friend Alina Habba. which was supposed to be a family affair with friends, and then she was sworn in, and he let the press in, and they have no soul. They scream like hyenas at the commander-in-chief in the
Careful,
Oval.
we have some press people here.
I know, and if they're not friends of mine, they're dead to me. And then an inordinate number of times, I would say more than 50% of the time, if there's any mention of national security, the president will bring up Iran, especially before Midnight Hammer, because it really is on his mind that this is the threat, a nuclear Iran, an ideologically Islamo-fascist regime that wishes to acquire the most dangerous weapons in the world is a threat to all decent peoples.
It was fascinating to me. I got fooled by.
You weren't the only one.
I know. All those Iranian generals who died in their bed, they also got fooled. I got fooled because I thought there was more tension between the White House and Jerusalem than there was, and
extended
Witkoff, the extended two week deadline.
deadline.
Steve Witkoff going to Oman, Benjamin Netanyahu's son's wedding. All that. I said, okay. Actually, one of our colleagues who's here, as I was walking out of the office on Thursday night, said, "What's going to happen?" I said, don't worry, nothing will happen until after the weekend. And so I got that one totally wrong, but it was fun to go back afterwards and look and see.
Trace it.
Yeah. The president was very clear from moment one.
Day 61.
60 days, yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was, you would have done a better job at predicting what he was going to do by just reading the statements.
It's who was it? There was a journalist who eight years ago nailed it. It's the one who has done that brand new book on what happened in Butler. And she said, the detractors and those who don't understand the president take him literally, but not seriously.
Oh, yeah, that's Selena Zito.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Selena said, the president's supporters and those who understand him don't take him deadly seriously, but not literally.
Yeah.
If you want to understand what he's doing, whether it's tariffs, the FTO designation of cartels, whether it's Iran, it is this, listen to what he says, because he will act on what he says.
Okay, let's go back to Iran a little bit then. We've got this victory.
Yeah.
But I look at it as a victory in a battle, but the war isn't over, right? They still have a nuclear program of some sort or another. They want to rebuild their ballistic missiles. They still have a proxy network. It's been severely diminished, but we still have the Houthis, for example. Let's go 1-1. The nuclear program, proxy network, ballistic missiles. What's the policy on each one of those?
I don't think, again, you're trying to do the Washington thing and silo them out. And that's not how we approach these problems.
I'm a Washingtonian, yeah.
But you're one of the good ones. Yeah. So don't think like everyone else. The question here is primarily nuclear weapons. That's why Midnight Hammer. And then secondarily proxies. The jury is still out on that. We had a great success with our operation against the Houthis. Again, wasn't well understood by the so-called experts. For the president, the action against the Houthis was about one thing and one thing alone. When we told him there'd been 150 attacks against US vessels going through the Straits, and that they'd actually fired on naval vessels as well, he said, well, that will not be allowed to stand. It's not just about US interests, it's about global freedom of maritime transport. So all of these things are connected. But at the end of the day, look, I was at a briefing with the Joint Special Operations Command at the beginning of my tenure, and there was this brainwave I had. I was being briefed on all the various threats in the various theaters, and then it came to me, how is a bunch of charcoal smugglers able to shoot down our platforms with exquisite capabilities? And I mean ISR platforms. One reason, Tehran. So that's why the focus, whether it's technology, and you don't need to have a clearance. If you just do the open source investigation, the sheer amount of monies that Tehran are providing these proxies if you're not in our world, you know the numbers, but if you're not in our world, the literal billions of dollars that are being taken out of the coffers of the Persian people and the minorities that live in Iran to fund literal insurgents and terrorist groups, if a fraction of that figure were actually able to penetrate into the conscience of those living in that regime, I think we'd see a very different Persia.
What's the plan for maximum pressure 2.0?
Maximum pressure increases, and I have to doff my cap here. Again, we were preparing a framework for a speech for the president in the not too distant future, just earlier today. And again, this is another thing that you can be very helpful with, Michael. The president doesn't look at national security as a function here, diplomacy as a function here, and economics and trade as a third function. They are all intertwined, completely and utterly intertwined. I try to make the point of, do you remember the first Zelensky visit in the Oval?
Okay. Yes, I do.
And people weren't cognizant, or they didn't understand, what's this about a rare earth minerals deal with Ukraine? What's this about? The Europeans are clamoring for Article 5 NATO-level treaty commitments for collective defense. And the fact that I have to explain that a piece of paper signed in Brussels is worth nothing. Okay, remember when Neville Chamberlain came back from Munich, I have peace in my time, and he's waving this piece of paper, and then Hitler invades, Czechoslovakia and then Poland. Okay, what makes Ukraine safe? Maybe if there's a rare earth minerals deal that sees thousands of Americans in Ukraine, scores of companies. Would Russia really invade Ukraine that has a strategic tie? So to that end, national security is not separatable from trade and economics, whether it's the DRC, whether it's any place we've stabilized in the last 6.5 months, there's always a component. So God bless Scott Bessent and everybody at Treasury and Lutnick at Commerce. We are doing national security, and I hate this phrase because it is a DC phrase, but this time it's real. It is utterly comprehensive and holistic.
All elements of national power.
Yeah, all elements, not just at a committee meeting of the interagency, but driving. Because, let me be candid here. The message we're going to send the world is one very simple thing. The left believes in zero sum. I don't care whether you're a communist, I don't care whether you're a Democrat, a member of the Labour Party. The left believes in closed systems where you have to divide the pie up between those who must receive something. This is where the concept of redistribution of wealth comes from, because it's a closed system. The pie is limited. President Trump, on a global scale, believes in what? The pie can constantly grow. So the message is, do you wish to prosper? Prosper with us. The bumper sticker for the recent incredible visit to the Middle East by the president was, we've moved on from 8 years ago. 8 years ago, you remember the speech in the Hijaz. You remember the Riyadh speech. The message was security. We're going to crush ISIS, and we're going to bring security. Now the president's trip was all about, we're moving from security to prosperity. It doesn't matter whether you're Vanuatu or the UAE. Do you wish to prosper? Then prosper with us. We're going to make the pie bigger together. And that is a function of both national security, trade policy, economics, diplomacy, so intertwined with each other that they look like one function.
Do you think it's fair to say that the president, when he begins to think about a problem, starts with the economics and then thinks about the security questions?
No, because it's far simpler than that. So here's the trouble with here's the trouble for the Beltway with understanding the current commander-in-chief. There is no ideological taxonomy into which he will fall. He's not a neocon, paleocon, neoliberal. This is a presidential candidate who 9 years ago walked around a campaign stage waving the gay pride flag. Not exactly your classic GOP presidential candidate, okay? So what is he? How do you understand? What are the driving forces? Is there an IR taxonomy or label you can put on him? No. There's only two things he cares about. If something's broken, I want to fix it. And two, is it good for the American people? Mm-hmm. It really is. Right. It's not necessarily the businessman's perspective. That comes in because he's been a businessman incredibly successfully for 50 years. But why would a man who is successful in that sphere come to this stinking cesspit called Washington and run for the presidency 3 times? Because he saw a broken system that he believed he could fix, which he is fixing, and to whose benefit? To the benefit of all Americans. Can I?
Sure.
Stories illustrate. Human beings live. I mean, why do we read our children bedtime stories?
I didn't do that. I gave it to my wife.
Why do wives read their children? Yeah, my wife was reading Lord of the Rings to my son every night. So why? Because stories help us make sense of reality. That's the purpose of a story. So let me tell a story about President Trump. I've known him since he asked me to prep him for the GOP debate in 2015. But I can tell you with empirical exactitude when he won the last election. A lot of people talk about Butler. A lot of people talk about various events along the campaign trail or the raid of Mar-a-Lago. Let me tell you when he won it for me. It's the McDonald's visit. Not for the usual reasons. Not for the, he takes off his Brioni, custom-made suit and puts on the apron and then does the shucking the fries in the fry station. No. So when he goes to the takeout window, go back and watch the video. Immigrant Indian family pulls up at the window. President hands them their lunch, which he's comped, right? He's paying, he's buying them lunch. With a thick South Asian accent, the husband goes, "Thank you, Mr. President, for doing what you're doing for nobodies like us." First reaction, what do you mean you're a nobody? No one is a nobody in America. First moment. Second moment, the clincher for me when he wins it. You have to turn up the volume on the video. You can go and watch it online. And the wife, from the other side of the vehicle, quietly says, "And thank you for taking a bullet for us, Mr. President." There's this pause that you can't fake. The president internalizes that comment and says, "Yeah, I guess I did take a bullet for you." So sacrificing, stepping into the arena to fix a system that was broken in the interests of a family like that Indian immigrant family at the takeout window. There is no ideological banner that you can stick on his forehead. It's about love of country, and we're going to fix it. It's that simple.
Okay, let's go back to counterterrorism in the Middle East.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to Syria. Mm-hmm. And just give us a sense of.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm most concerned about in Syria. I am most concerned about the U.S. turning Syria. This is what I want to see happen. I want to see them turn Syria into a buffer between Turkey and Israel. And I'm concerned that some of the guys running around in Syria are going to make that very difficult.
Yeah. So let's be clear what's happened in Syria, thanks in large part to our friends in Jerusalem. I mean, God bless Israel for what they did after the greatest loss of life since the Shoah, since the Holocaust. Their post-October the 7th operations have rewritten the map of the Middle East for the next 50 to 100 years. And the fact that with the fall of the Assad regime, the murderous mullahs of Iran do not have safe harbor and a resupply route through Syria is one of the greatest things Israel has achieved for the modern world in the last decade or more. Now, President Trump has made the offer of a lifetime to Jolani, this former jihadi. He said, now it's your chance after the fall of the regime to make Syria great again. And we did this at the request of which capitals? We know who wanted this. We know that Saudi Arabia and Ankara, and to a lesser extent Qatar, wanted this to happen. Okay, is it going to happen is the question. As you said, there are numerous actors involved, from the Kurds in the north to Israel to Turkey that had a very tight relationship with Giuliani in a past life, and of course Russia as well that wants to get back into Syria. What I've been saying to all those involved is, as with the election of President Trump, this is your opportunity in the case of Syria to finally have a chance of making that a functioning nation. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but the idea that the Kurds, who I dearly love, who have bled with us, who've died with us for 20 years, want to somehow maintain a separateness and then Syria will function, or the Druze, because of everything they've gone through, want to disconnect from Damascus, I'm not so sure that will not lead to another civil war that their children and their grandchildren will have to fight. So my expectation, and my team is working very closely with Envoy Ambassador Barak as well, to help him give the Syrians, all constituent elements, the chance to come together. But it's got to be a real, we have to have representation of all the confessional constituents in Damascus. And then let me take it to a very prosaic tactical level. For my boss, we're back in the age of Kissinger. We have a Secretary of State who's also acting National Security Advisor. Our boss, Secretary Rubio, has a 5-meter target, which is to guarantee that there will not be another massacre. We just do not want to come into work, get the presidential daily briefing and see whether it's in Suwaida, whether it's in Latakia, wherever it is, another group, Christians, Alawites, Druze, Kurds have been massacred. We want to try and make sure that doesn't happen in Syria. But with the proviso, we are never going to do nation building. The only nation this president is interested in building is this one, America.
So unified Syria, but one in which the central authorities respect the confessional diversity of the population.
And those populations are not vulnerable. They can defend themselves and have the support of Damascus in doing that, with also the other conditionality on top that, Ankara, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Qatar have a role to play. I'm trying to send a message that the problems of Syria will not be solved by another codel to Damascus.
Right.
It will be solved by those who have an interest finding the bare minimum overlap in the Venn diagram, whereby Israel and Turkey can come to some modus vivendi about what Syria looks like. Yeah. You know better than I do the constituent elements.
So if you have to give a scorecard of how things are going, if that's the goal that we're headed toward, that's the end state we're headed toward, how do you...
We are 3 minutes into this game.
Yeah.
We are 3 minutes into this game, and we are working to try and make it so that government, that nascent government, has a capacity in the counterterrorism domain to prevent the next massacre. That's what I'm working on.
And are you seeing efforts by Iran to get back in the game in Syria?
Not ones I can discuss publicly.
Are you worried about Iran?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they're weaker than they have been for probably a generation as a regime. But as long as it is a theocratic, fascistic regime, we have a problem.
Yeah.
We have a problem.
Okay, let's move to the next neighboring Lebanon.
Yes.
Yeah. How about Iran's efforts to keep Hezbollah alive? How would you gauge that?
Well, again, thanks to the work of Israel, they're not on death's door, but Hezbollah is not. They're in the ICU. Let's say they're in the ICU.
Yeah.
We had this conversation just this morning. So I used an analogy or a visual depiction. What Iran has wrought and what Hezbollah has wrought in that benighted nation is an interwoven system of vines that are strangling the oak tree, or what are the cedar?
The cedars of
Lebanon. Cedar of Lebanon. Let's use a cedar instead. And those vines, whilst in recent months they have been weakened there's still an interlaced network that has the capacity to strangle the key modalities of a functioning Westphalian nation state that should be Lebanon. I do not want to see, and we will not see, any kind of large-scale intervention, but we have to find a way to help President Aoun snip the vines at the base so that cedar can actually grow the way it should grow. There is an opportunity here. The question is, will the government find the will it needs to now exploit what Israel and others have afforded them? And again, I think it's early days.
Okay, early days. UNIFIL is up for renewal. Yeah. What can you tell us anything about? Nothing.
That's getting a little bit into the weeds. Okay,
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. You don't want to give us information. That's okay. We won't hold it against you.
I'm giving you lots of information. Just keep it on things I can talk about freely.
I don't know what those are.
Unless it's a sudden skiff and everybody's got a
probe. I have to probe to find out what I can talk about, what I can't talk about. So let's move then to Horn of Africa. Mm-hmm. Give us an overview there.
So I'll go beyond just the Horn of Africa. So I want to doff my cap. So before the inauguration, I came in for a week to the White House to get transition briefings from my outgoing counterpart, who wasn't a political, it was a professional member of the IC. And I have to say, she did a great job. Her team did a great job. And, you know, we've been doing this for a long time. I've been looking at jihadi movements for 26 years. So I thought I was, even though I wasn't in government, I still had my clearances whilst the Biden administration was wrecking the world. So I thought I was going to be ready for the classified briefings. There's only one thing that truly disturbed me, and it's not just the Horn of Africa. When I was shown the African continent and the displacement and the distribution of jihadi threat groups, especially ISIS, that gave me a little disquiet. Mm-hmm. Now, since then, I've come to a certain reassessment that while it's problematic, especially in terms of numbers of jihadis, there's a reason that they're in Africa, not just the Horn of Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, the Sahel. Why? Why is ISIS in Africa? Because we crushed the caliphate. And far too many in the government have forgotten that we have established in the last 24 years an utterly exquisite counterterrorism platform. Mm. Day 8 of the administration, I walked into the White House, into the Oval, with the then National Security Advisor, with a member of my team, and we placed, this is now declassified, you can read it in the Daily Mail, placed an intercept and a map on the president's Resolute desk, and we said, sir, there's a leading ISIS recruiter, financier, and trainer in this part of Somalia, in this terror complex, and we've been surveilling him for a year and a half. The president looked up from the Resolute desk and said, well, what do you mean we've been watching him? Kill him. With the iconic felt-tip Sharpie, he ticked the go box in the operational orders in front of him, and less than 30 hours later, we were back in the sit room with the screens from our platforms, watching that jihadi be turned into red mist. If we know where you are, anywhere in the world, we can kill you within 72 hours, if the president says so. That is an awesome capability. Why did they go to Africa? Because hanging around in, parts of Iraq and Syria wasn't a workable option anymore. Secondly, why are they in those parts of Africa? Because in many cases, it's what? Either ungoverned space, classic terrorist prerequisite, or secondly, they're trying to leverage older, mostly tribal and ethnic conflicts and to impose their jihadi matrix on top, which in some cases works, in some cases is...
Like they did in Afghanistan. They had jihadi muscle to
political movements. Turn tribal ethnic clashes into some global thing, right? So in and of itself, I see that as a weakness. So right now, what we're doing, and my deputy and other members of my team have gone to various countries of the African continent. And the good news is there are several nations, quietly, who want to work with us, who have been very poorly treated by the Biden administration, and I mean very poorly treated, and are giving the president the benefit of the doubt because of his first term, and now wish to be force multipliers, focal points for multinational efforts quietly to try and bring stability to the Horn and to other parts of the region.
Right. Right. Is it fair to say that in your, as Senior Director for Counterterrorism, you're spending more time on Africa than any other place?
No, I would say my deputy is, because he has a background in that and I've given him that portfolio. Right now, on a day-to-day basis, the big muscle movement is finishing the counterterrorism strategy for the president. And secondly, Syria.
Interesting.
And then maybe the Muslim Brotherhood.
Uh-huh. Oh, you want to say a few words about the Muslim Brotherhood?
I'm happy to. I think you know where I stand on this. I'm just
Yeah.
going to repeat what my boss, Secretary Rubio, said last weekend before last. The Muslim Brotherhood is the progenitor, is the grandfather of all modern global jihadism. Hassan al-Banna, Syed Qutb, all the way down to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, General Malik, bin Laden himself, Ayman al-Zawahri. These people all feed off the same ideological gene code. And we have to recognize that if Arab Muslim nations like Jordan have designated the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, it may be high time for us to do so as well, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Republican politics.
Have you heard of the Hatch Act? You used to work in government, right?
Let's talk about ideological movements inside the Trump administration. How about that?
Good.
Because there's a lot of concern these days in my world about this division that's opened up in MAGA. I call it the Tucker Carlson stream, and then the President Trump stream. That's how I see it. Mm-hmm. Are you comfortable talking about that?
I am. Yeah, I am, because it bothers me immensely. Mm-hmm. But I've come to a certain realization with regards to it that this wing of isolationism, is nothing new. Okay, we had this 100 years ago, and this is just a poor, substandard repackaging of neo-Buchananite isolationism, right? The Tuckerite wing is basically, Pat Buchanan in a new guise. It's actually a more shallow version. Pat is far smarter than this version of isolationism. Mm. Beyond that, I'm actually in a better place with it than I was, because I think it's probably half a dozen very loud people on Twitter and Rumble. It does not, you get out of the miasma, the cesspit that is social media, and you talk to representative MAGA voters of the 80 million that put the president back in the White House, they don't think that we should pull down the shutters on the Pacific and the Atlantic coast. Mm. They don't think that Israel is the reason for October the 7th. They actually have a very special place in their heart for Israel, and they don't think that hospitals being bombed in Ukraine is a good thing because somebody offered NATO membership to Ukraine allegedly a decade ago. The average person is defined as an immigrant to this country, a legal immigrant to the United States. One of the most trenchant, indicative characteristics for me of the American people is common sense. They understand who is responsible for October the 7th. They understand who Vladimir Putin is. And as such, I was worried by this neo-Buchananite isolationism, but I look at President Trump's actions. They have no hold on him.
It's clear. It's clear that President Trump is not listening to him, making decisions in a completely different way. I mean, he basically signaled it with that Truth Social posting where he said, who's going to tell Cookie Tucker Carlson that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon?
Or in the first Trump administration, I find it stunning given, I grew up under Margaret Thatcher in the UK. For me, Ronald Reagan is a hero. But not even Ronald Reagan went to, pray at the Temple Mount. The first ever president as president to go to the Wailing Wall was who? Was President Trump. And I can tell you a story about the first Trump administration, which is a very different administration from this Trump administration. And I can't give you names, but at the time, only 3 members of the Trump cabinet would support President Trump's decision to move the embassy to Jerusalem. 3 members. And he was lectured by the then putative mad dog who told him, Mr. President, you can't move the embassy. You'll create World War III, and I don't have enough Marines to protect all our embassies. And what did the commander-in-chief say? With such moral clarity, he said, Jim, we're moving the embassy and we're recognizing Jerusalem because A, we promised the people of Israel 23 years ago, and we've broken that promise every 6 months for 23 years. B, I promised the American electorate in the campaign we're doing it. Oh, and 3, C, Jim, it's the right thing to do. That moral clarity tells you the president...
And no Americans died as a result.
It was so strange.
There was no
World War III didn't erupt, mad dog.
Yeah. Well, that's, I hadn't made the connection between the difference between Trump and Tucker Carlson and between Trump and Mattis. You did name names, by the way, and Tillerson.
You're a good analyst.
Yeah, I'm sharp. Okay, well, thanks. You gave us, I think you gave us a headline. Now let's open it up for some questions here. Please, here it comes. Yeah, please identify yourself and praise Hudson, and then ask.
Bruce Guthrie, thank you for doing this event. You said the U.S. doesn't do nation building. Obviously, Lebanon...
No. This administration doesn't do nation building.
Obviously, Lebanon, Gaza, there's going to be some money that needs to be put in there. Where is that money coming from?
Well, this is a great question, and it goes to another supreme example of the president's Gaza comments. Again, the experts just don't understand. The president says, we're going to take over Gaza, we're going to take care of it. What happened? For 24 hours, hair on fire, people screaming, what is this? Are there going to be golf courses and Trump Towers in Gaza-Largo? I mean, just this asinine, imbecilic commentary. And then what happened? 72 hours later, you had certain nations who hadn't lifted a finger for the benighted people of Gaza for decades say, maybe we should invest in Gaza. Maybe we should build there. That is called the art of the deal. There are many nations who have a much closer tie to those people, culturally, historically, who have the monies to do something about it. So I recommend to everyone, those who hate my boss and those who love him, if you don't read The Art of a Deal, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Thank you. I am Zebunessa Zeba Zubair, Executive Board Member of the first Muslim Women Civil Rights Organization, which is called American Muslim and Multi-Faith Women Empowerment Council. We are fighting extremism since 9/11, and we established in California before. Now we are nationwide and worldwide. My question about homeland, what we are taking the step for the preventing. Preventing is better than cure. The jihadism started here, extremism started here, because when we are living in a cosmopolitan city like DC or LA, we don't know what's going on, all the communities. So there is a lot of extremists living here. So what is the prevention for them? Like a bad immigration, like you see what is going on all the college campuses. Yeah, I relocate myself from Orange County. From last year, I moved here to DC because of I visited 2 times Israel, and I got a lot of community backlashes, online bully. Almost every week, I get some kind of threat. So what is the Like, we don't want another 9/11. And
Right,
Islamophobia also very high when anti-Semitism is high. So what is the civilian security?
So, number one, we're doing what Stephen Miller, Tom Homan, Governor Noem are doing, which is getting those threats that are in the United States out. So the incredible work, 1.6 million illegals, some of whom are extremists, have already removed or self-deported themselves since January the 20th. Secondly, we have to take seriously the idea of ideological warfare. So I explained very clearly that nobody can hunt, the man-hunting capacity of the United States has never been greater. If we know where you are and you're a jihadi and you've killed Americans, we will find, the president tweeted this, we will find you and we will kill you. Nevertheless, killing jihadis is only part of the solution. Why? For every jihadi you kill, if they can recruit new fighters, you're basically creating an endless cycle. It's my contention, to use a concept from military theory, the center of gravity of every jihadi group, Sunni or Shia, is their ideology. So part of our new draft counterterrorism strategy is a very aggressive counter-jihadi information campaign, especially with our Muslim partners and allies. I spent 5.5 years teaching counterterrorism at National Defense University here in DC. I've worked very closely with some of the best counterterrorism operators in the world, especially the Jordanians. These individuals, along with the Moroccans and others, the Emiratis, have exquisite tools in the non-kinetic domain to do what? To delegitimize and demoralize jihadi groups. What is one of the most valuable things we brought back from Abbottabad? Yes, bin Laden's body, but just as valuable was what? His computer hard drives, which were full of what? Pornography. The great religious leader of modern jihad had gigabytes and terabytes of pornography on his website. That's not a very solid narrative if you're the great holy warrior. So we have to have a very aggressive counter-ideology to make these groups look like illegitimate actors and losers, which is what they are. When it comes to what's happening inside America, we have to take very seriously those who share the jihadi ideology and to give aid and succor to FTOs, foreign terrorist organizations. From the river to the sea is a genocidal chant. I don't care if you're a rich white kid on the campus at Harvard or if you're in the Middle East. If you're saying genocidal things, then we know who you support, at least in terms of ideology. The question is, when do you cross the line to providing tangible support, finance, training, propaganda, social media? If you're doing tangible support to registered threat groups, you are committing a felony, whether you are an American or not. And I can tell you, my colleague, the Homeland Security Advisor, takes that threat very seriously.
Are you guys watching the flow of money? There's a lot of talk about flows of money.
Yes.
To demonstrators on our campuses.
Yes.
Foreign money. Can you say anything about that? Is that
not really, but I can say that both the DOJ and another department of government that may surprise you is looking very closely at who is spending what kind of money for ideological purposes in educational institutions. Let me leave it at that.
okay? When you say that it would surprise me, that means you don't want to tell me.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay, thank you. I won't tell you though. Please identify yourself. Praise Hudson.
An incredible guest
CENTCOM
today.
contractor. Give Mike Doran a raise. My question is, we're talking about terrorism. As I recall, at the beginning of the year, so there were some cartels that were designated as
Yes.
FTOs. I went into the year expecting that CENTCOM and UCOM would get a haircut, that NORTHCOM, INDOPACOM would get plussed up. Where are we with that? What should we be expecting to see?
So Right now, the strategy for the cartels is being finalized. Actions have already been taken with regards to some of them, especially treasury designations. Can I just explain for those who don't fully appreciate why the president took the action against the 6 cartels and the 2 gangs originally? When I had you're kind to mention my TV and radio show. When I had a TV show on Newsmax for one of the hour-long specials, I decided to sit down and do the math of cartels, fentanyl, and drug overdoses. And I took the statistics for every combat killed in action fatality since 1945 to the present day. So that's Korea, Vietnam, Grenada, Panama, Gulf 1, Gulf 2, GWAT, Afghanistan. Okay, so 45 to the present day. If you added all that up, that's 103,000 killed in action US servicemen and women in 75 years. 103,000. At the same time, this is in the midst of the Biden administration, I went to the Biden website at CDC, and I found, you had to really dig for it, but I found the statistic for how many Americans were killed by fentanyl and sundry drug overdoses in one 12-month period of Biden's open border policy. This is a Biden statistic. 110,000. 110,000 Americans dead because of the cartels and Chinese precursors in 1 year. More than 75 years of armed combat. So that's why President Trump did what he did. And that's why we are very lucky to have Stephen Miller in charge of that strategy. And I warmly recommend you invite him here as well.
Oh, anytime. It's remarkable, actually, when I think about the world I grew up in, the United States I grew up in, compared to the one that I live in today. One of the biggest differences are all these zombies walking around on the street on fentanyl. And
the fact
it's become just normal to us to have all these zombies around. It's remarkable.
And just the horror stories. If you live in this area, I can't tell you how many times you hear of children who just take a pill in high school, 1 pill, and they're dead. They don't become addicts and then end up with tracts in their arms and on the street,
Actually, I personally know someone that happened.
Yeah. They're dead. Their mother finds them the next morning, age 16. There is an argument to be made that this is a form of WMD. This is a weapon of mass destruction. 110,000 Americans in 1 year.
Let's talk about you personally a little bit. So this is the second. You worked in the first Trump administration. You worked in this one. What are your impressions about the differences? A lot of people were talking about the differences between the first and the second.
I think I'm going to have to write a piece on this or do something. There couldn't be a larger gulf between the 2 administrations in many ways. So, and I'll be very candid about it. We had actual traitors and saboteurs inside the White House in the first administration.
Yeah.
When you've got a serving 05, when you've got a lieutenant colonel, providing classified documents to the Washington Post as he's working in the National Security Council, that's the definition of subversion and being a saboteur. When you've got, and this pains me, I spent 2.5 years teaching at Quantico, and I love the Marine Corps. I love the Devil Dogs. But when you've got a former 4-star general as chief of staff, who we now know is literally subverting the president's writ as commander-in-chief, who's physically, he gave this interview publicly on Fox, physically assaulting a friend of the president, Corey Lewandowski, outside the Oval Office because he says, "This is my building and you don't come in here without my permission." Hey, John Kelly, nobody elected you. They only elected President Trump. We have none of that today. We don't have traitors, we don't have saboteurs, and we don't have people who should not be there like Rex Tillerson. I still don't understand how a person like that, who had nothing to do with MAGA, nothing to do with America First, ends up as one of the most powerful people in the world. Today, we have friends of mine running the FBI, the CIA, the DNI. We have people who are connected by one thing and one thing alone: love of country. Oh, and they can all be two things: trusted by the president. These are people who are committed to the vision as provided to us by 78 million Americans who gave a mandate to this man to be the president for a second time. So absolutely incompatible. When you've got true warriors dedicated to their mission, running these departments. I mean, look at the speed. We can't. I live in a skiff. It's skiff life. I come out of the skiff. I check my phone.
Skiff for those who don't know, secure
Compartmented
facility where
yes, it's where you do classified work, and you can't take your phones in, so you leave your phones outside. And you spend your day in the skiff, and you come out and you check your phone and say, "Oh my gosh, what did the president do in the last? Oh, another peace treaty." I mean, we're just trying to keep up with the president because he moves at a rate of knots that is incomprehensible for mere mortals like those who work for him.
Now, you mentioned peace treaties. So,
Are we going to get to your favorite topic?
Yeah, we are. Armenia, Azerbaijan. I'm tremendously excited. I really am very enthusiastic from the bottom of my heart. It's not exactly in the counterterrorism portfolio, but counterterrorism can be anything. Of course, we know that. You can.
That's what I keep telling my bosses.
You can insinuate yourself into any conversation when there's a counterterrorism angle. Can you just give us any flavor at all on the?
I wasn't involved. It's not even though counterterrorism applies to everything. I wasn't involved in the negotiations, but I will. And you could wax lyrical for far more eloquently on the topic than I can. But the sheer idea that another seemingly intractable conflict, which had such geopolitical players who could subvert it and are still trying to, like Russia and Iran, actually come to fruition in the Oval Office just 2 weeks after the DRC-Rwanda peace treaty. Okay, let me say this about it. I can't give you any inside baseball, but let me zoom out to the 50,000 feet, because this is, again, I see myself as somebody who's got his dream job, but I try to facilitate my colleagues' understanding across government and outside government of the times we are living in. If you think this is just another administration or just another president, you are Rip Van Winkle in the cave. You are irrelevant and you have no understanding of the enormity of the historic tectonic moment you live in. Just the tariff-based reorganization of the global economy will change the way the world functions for a century. Just the tariff deals alone. If we look at the president's investment and unleashing of AI, of small nuclear reactors, of quantum, on and on. You can talk about Greenland. Greenland alone. Look, I have a globe in my office, in my skiff, because I'm old school. Get a globe out and look at where this nation is. And then you'll understand the geopolitical comprehension of this commander-in-chief. This isn't just another interesting peace treaty on a Friday in the Oval. This is a reordering of the world to one purpose, not just the American purpose, but any nation who wishes to be secure and prosper with us. It goes back to this utter jettisoning of the zero-sum game. If you believe in the model we have here, freedom given to us by dint of the fact that we are made in the image of our Creator, that the free market economy has taken more billions of humans out of poverty than any other system the world has created since we had human civilization. If you want to be part of that, join us under the leadership of an America that is proud to be American again. So this peace treaty that I know is incredibly personal for you is just one facet of the historic import of what not we are doing, what the president's team is doing. And it is not understood by most people in this city.
You know, what you said before about the difference between the first administration and the second. The team is tighter now.
Yes.
It's a lot tighter. I think sometimes it's a little too tight.
You've been reading Atlantic again.
No. From my own look, I'm still stinging from the fact that I got fooled by the attack on but no. It is. Look, I'm delighted that you made the statements you made about the neo-Buchananites, as you called them. But I think that there aren't the number of spokesmen out there from within the administration who are translating the president's vision in the way that you just did is pretty small. It's pretty small. Well, how about you just react to that? And look, I understand why they've tightened the team and the way they have.
So I'm not going to make it. On the one hand, I will agree with you, not just because I'm a friend and I like you.
Do you have friends you don't like?
None. The president has chosen a cabinet. I love how the West says, the MSN says, another Fox News contributor. Oh, you mean like a leading prosecutor, attorney, a judge, a combat veteran? These are, they're just with a Fox contributor. The president has consciously chosen arch communicators to run his departments and his agencies for a reason, because he wants to be able to communicate the vision and them to be able to do so. And I have to say, Scott Besson, who is a friend of mine, is one of the rock stars. A man who a year ago detested media or doing interviews is now one of our best communicators, and God bless Scott. But you're right. We need to do more to communicate why we're doing what we're doing. I will try to influence that. I love Caroline and the press team and the NSC press team, but it still is not understood why the president does what he does, the role of trade, the idea that the pie can be made bigger. It's about prosperity.
And things are moving very fast.
Sorry, thank you for reminding me. I think this is the issue. This is why we're not communicating it as widely as we could, because we're too damn busy. Excuse my French. I mean, I feel like I've been in the administration for 5 years, and it's been less than a year. I mean, I'll give you one metric. Hostages belong to my portfolio, to my team. We have liberated 72 US citizens in less than 7 months. 72. The Biden administration freed 80 in 4 years. We've done the same amount in half a year that he did in 80. We've killed 272 jihadis since January the 20th, excluding the Houthis. The speed with which we are moving means we don't have a lot of time to do things like this. I'm not doing a lot of events. This is my second event I've done since January the 20th, only because it's you. The last one was FDD. The next one's going to be for my buddy Jim at Heritage.
You did FDD before us. It's really
that
hurts.
Moans.
It hurts.
Moans. All right, I'm doing you before Heritage. Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, it's all right.
So it's the speed with which. Oh, and to your last point, the tightness. Look, I'm so impressed because I was in the sit room for Midnight Hammer.
Right.
The fact that nobody knew that it was happening.
Okay. All right. Now hold on a second. We've got 2 minutes left. You got to give us this. You got to tell us a story there.
No, I can't. In my memoir,
give us a little color from there. Come on. That's good.
God, there's one story I wish I could tell, but I'll wait. I need Marco's. I need the acting national security advisor's
permission.
I
give it to you in his name.
Yeah, that's so kind.
I worked for George W. Bush, not as a SAP or a DAP.
Let me say, there were 2 of my team members in there with me, and there's a moment when we look at each other and we just say, yeah, we are living history. Why? Because it's decisive use of force with surgical precision. There's no waffling. There's no interagency committees for 2 years. Here's the threat. Here's the maskirovka. Here's the distraction, the military deception. Send that group over there. Fly these guys in. It was a level of Tom Clancy-esque perfection that if you'd read it in a novel, you would say, not possible to do this in reality. It was done. But to your point of the tightness of the decision making, and this may not be, politically correct to say so, if it works, who cares? Does it work? It works. 272 jihadis dead, 72 Americans liberated, 1.6 million illegals got rid of this out of this country, 6 peace treaties. Are we going to complain about the process, or are we going to look at the results? It's like all the people who have issues with the president's style. Do you care about the style of your brain surgeon, or do you care if he's a good brain surgeon?
Are you telling me I need a brain surgeon?
I have access to certain information. All right, but that was a great question. And
All right, thank you. And that was a great
Thank you.
answer. Please join me in thanking Sebastian Gorka.